Hello and welcome to One Cool Thing, where we show you one cool thing which we are testing out here in the PC Mag Labs. Today's cool thing is
the Surface Pro 7 from Microsoft.
Okay, so
you've heard of it.
I think I've heard of the Surface Pro, and I've seen the Surface Pro 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe there wasn't a 5?
5, I think maybe just called Pro.
Okay,
keep
okay.
track.
And they've kind of all looked the same, haven't they?
Yes, I think for now 4 iterations there has been no discernible physical change, which, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You've heard that before. There's nothing wrong with it per se, so why mess with the design?
Okay, but that makes it a little hard to understand. You get the Surface Pro 7, you look at this Surface Pro 7. How is this Surface Pro 7 different from the previous Surface Pros?
In this case, mostly an internal change, but a finally added, much requested feature, which is the USB-C port. They finally added one. A device that's supposed to feel kind of cutting edge like this, that's supposed to feel like the best of technology, not having had a USB-C port this whole time, has gotten people, a little miffed over the years.
So it's like Surface Pro 6 plus one USB-C port equals 7.
Equals 7. That's basically the gist. Yeah. It's not Thunderbolt 3, so it's like almost there. So people will again be annoyed about that. But you can't please everyone, I guess, Sasha. Okay,
so let's go down the basic specs. The screen, it's that 3000 by 2000
Pixel
Surface
Sense.
Pro screen?
They love Pixel Sense, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a super high-res screen. It looks great. It looks as nice as it always did. The magnesium build. The bezels are relatively thick still, which, we'll get to that later because there's a competitor now that is making it seem like maybe they should change the design.
Is there a Windows Hello camera up in here?
I believe so.
Okay.
What else do we have? As I said, most of the changes are internal, so other than that, this is kind of the Surface you know and love. USB-C port, USB port, which a lot of ultra-portable laptops actually don't give you both a USB-C and a USB-A, so it does have both of those. As always, the keyboard, which kind of makes the whole concept come together, is still sold separately. I think it's like $130, so a kind of significant add-on. I think as configured here, this altogether is like $1360 or so.
Now, how do you feel about the lapability? I feel like that's always been the most controversial thing about the Surface.
It's as good or as bad, however you want to look at it, as it's always been. Again, not without any real structural changes. It kind of is the same positives and negatives. That includes the fact that they did this at all remains impressive. It's probably one of the best ones of these types of products. The fact that it has this detachable keyboard that's so easy to attach and detach, the fact that it clamps to the screen and hooks in and is magnetic. But when you put it on your lap, it rests, but you gotta kind of keep your legs together because it's not that wide of a product. The keyboard isn't too flexy, but it has some flex, so it's not the ideal laptop for your actual lap. But if you're on a plane with a tray or at a table, it's pretty perfect.
So how's the performance? What do we have in here in terms of processor? Are the graphics anything to speak about?
Yeah, so we are fully up to Ice Lake is what Intel's latest 10th gen chip code name is, and that's what's inside here. Our unit has 8 gigs of RAM. It's not a crazy high config. It's also a Core i5, but these 10th gen CPUs are pretty darn capable. I would say anything that someone wants to do on this type of system, other than heavy media editing, which I feel like if you're a professional who needs to edit a lot of media, you know that this isn't exactly the product type for you. It can pretty much do your daily tasks. It's perfect for just taking with you and for word processing, web browsing, music, videos, all those sorts of tasks. The processor's up to snuff.
Now, what about games? Is this integrated graphics?
It is integrated graphics. Ice Lake has Iris Pro graphics, which are better than what had existed previously on integrated in Intel's platform previously, but they are still integrated graphics. They are better, but far off what a discrete GPU would do. So your simple games or your Fortnites on very low settings might run better than they did before, but still short of true gaming level.
Now, I noticed you don't have a Surface Pen here. Does it work with the pen?
It does come, the pen's an extra $99. It's the Surface Pen. It does the things that the Surface Pen does. It's a good stylus. It's not anything truly revolutionary or remarkable. It is good, and if you need a pen, which probably not everybody needs a $100 pen, it exists for you if you want it. Unlike the keyboard, I would say, I wouldn't recommend buy the pen with it. I would definitely recommend to buy the keyboard with it.
So now, is the 6 still on sale, and how would you choose between a 6 and a 7?
Yeah, so the 6 does exist on their website. You can still get it. It's probably bundled in with either accessories or software. It's probably discounted.
I like discounts.
Yeah, discounts are good, and frankly, because the two are so similar and it's mostly an internal upgrade, which, while better, isn't a huge evolution, you could probably get a pretty good value out of getting a 6 on sale or in a bundle instead of the 7, who I don't think everybody needs the 7. So if you're more concerned about your budget than you are about a USB-C port and a new generation of processor, that doesn't make like a huge difference. Going for a 6 in one of their sales might be the way to go.
How much of a difference does the new processor make?
Some, not a lot. It's not a Gulf. It's energy efficient. It's a good chip. The battery life is good. It ran for 12 hours on our rundown test. But it doesn't change the class of machine this is by any stretch. It still is what it is.
Now you say it runs for 12 hours, but you've looked at other systems that run for 18 or 19, right?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the best ultra portable laptops, maybe some 15 inches, maybe some 14 inches, run for 20 hours. So it's not the best, but I would still call that probably all day battery life for most uses. And it might last shorter on other tasks if you're doing a lot of things at once. Our battery test is a video rundown, so if you're multitasking and doing music and typing and internet and all these other things, it might only last 8-7 hours. So.
And now another thing that surprised me about this is it looks like the kind of thing that I would want to have 4G LTE in, but there's no LTE option, right?
Yes, and I did review one of the previous versions of this with LTE, but now that has been relegated to a different product for Microsoft. No LTE on the 7. So if you're someone who wants cellular service on your device, which unfortunately it is a good device for, because that's a good fit, the mobile.
Yeah, it's so thin and light and mobile, and it's something you would take anywhere.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a tablet that you want to stream video on. I would love to have a 4G connection, but I guess not this time around.
Yeah, not meant to be.
Yeah. So okay, so we mentioned that they're relegating LTE off to a different device, and we can tease that other device now, can't we?
Yes. Let me just reach. Coincidentally, oh wow, whoa,
hey!
What a weird surprise that this is here. This is, Sasha, the Surface Pro X.
Okay, not 10.
Not 10.
So it's not the iPhone 10, it's the Surface Pro X.
Yes, and
gotcha.
And when they're next to each other, you kind of see the fact that the Pro has kept the same design for 4 years.
Yeah, you can see, I don't know if you can see it on the video because it's very subtle, but the Pro is thicker and it has this cooling fin all the way around the edge, whereas the Pro X is slimmer and has a more integrated unibody rounded look.
Yeah, it's rounder, it's sleeker. The bezels on the sides are thinner. The top one's still about the same size, but the bezels on the sides are thinner. It looks more like you would expect a Surface to look in 2019 as opposed to the same one that's existed now for roughly 4 years.
But in terms of our editor's choice picks in these categories right now, what are your favorites that you've been seeing recently?
Well, yeah, in the past, the 6, for someone who can spend the money and likes the idea of the hybrid laptop, the Surface Pro 6 is one of our favorites. There are pure laptops that are better, like the Dell XPS 13, which added a 2-in-1 version of itself, which that's kind of our favorite, just ideal general use portable laptop. So having a 2-in-1 that can become a tablet version of that is kind of ideal. These have their own pros and cons. I think the lapability of this compared to something like the XPS 13 is, there's a trade-off. And I think we should touch, though, on why this is thinner and lighter, because you might be wondering why don't they just make the Surface Pro look like this one.
I know, it's lovely.
And, well, I feel like this is a good time for you to talk about ARM.
Yep. So the thing about the Surface Pro X is that the Surface Pro X is not running an Intel processor. It is running something called the Qualcomm SQ1, which is a ARM-based processor produced by Qualcomm, designed for supposedly very long battery life and 4G LTE integration. Now, Microsoft has been trying to, ARM is a different processor architecture than the Intel processors that most Windows runs on. And Microsoft has for years been trying to run Windows on the ARM processor architecture to take advantage of lower power, longer battery life, LTE integration, and that's been kind of a rocky road, hasn't it?
Yeah, you gotta kind of look at what apps you're running as opposed to just the blanket. You don't have to worry, this is a Windows computer. For all intents and purposes, a full-on computer, you don't have to worry about what you're running. This isn't quite the full Windows experience. I mean, it is, but it isn't. And it's just not as powerful. This is lower power consumption, is lower heat. The components are less demanding. That's why it's able to fit into this chassis. The ideal sort of combination is that this looks like this in a year or two. I think everyone wants an Intel chip in the device that is that much thinner and that much slicker looking.
So it runs all of the software which you're used to, like this guy, but it feels super thin and super light and integrates connectivity anywhere like this guy.
Yes, that's the dream, and I do think in a year or two we'll be at that point, if I had to guess.
Okay, great. Well, that's one cool thing from PCMag.com. Please like and subscribe to our channel. We have lots of reviews of tech products, lots of opinions, lots of other fun stuff here on PCMag.com. Thanks a lot.